Yeah, we're on. Thanks for having us at your SendB offices. That's where all the magic is happening.
Exactly, it's a pleasure. Yeah, you can see some of the activity behind here.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the few companies that are actually doing stuff in the real world. So, I'm still impressed by that. But since the last time we spoke, what would be the update now with what's going on in SendB and in your life, whatever you want to share?
Yeah, so we're a very ambitious company. Of course, we're very wedded to this idea of Bitcoin as a payment system. What's very interesting is that when you think about Bitcoin, a lot of people have been very fixed to this idea of money since the beginning. Even the title of the white paper said peer-to-peer cash. The BTC community obviously have taken that to the next level, which is now it's actually just gold. It's not meant to be cash. When you think about Bitcoin and you think about the idea around scaling Bitcoin, and this actually goes to Satoshi Nakamoto, where he thought about Bitcoin not having a scaling ceiling, something that can be commercialized and can work within big data centers.
Yeah.
That means that this blockchain ledger actually has a lot more ideas, a lot more capabilities, and we see how blockchains like Ethereum and so on, they're trying to come up with a kind of application layer on top of blockchain.
Yes.
But if you just think about the storage capabilities on Bitcoin, a lot of companies are now thinking about storing information on Bitcoin, at least Bitcoin SV, which is what we support. So there's a lot. If you follow the Bitcoin SV community and you look to what they're trying to do with Bitcoin as a technology that has no limits in terms of the amount of information you can put on there, then you're starting to see a lot of other companies come along that are not doing money-based systems. But since for 10 years now, I've been looking at Bitcoin as a payment system. And that's why SendB is a payment company. But it's not the kind of company that you can create a single product and then suddenly you have a revenue generating functioning business. To create a new financial system, you need a lot of components. You need people to be able to easily get Bitcoin, to be able to easily hold it, and then to be able to easily use it, spend it. That's what motivates us. We want Bitcoin to be cash,
right?
And that's why Bitcoin SV, as the microtransactions, the micro fees, and so on, that's very important to us. So we're trying to now create that new payments ecosystem. We're trying to get people easily into Bitcoin SV, to hold it onto a wallet, and now finally to spend it and to use it. And it's complicated. We don't have a huge team. We've got just less than 10 people.
Yeah.
And we've got some major products that we've got. Some are live. The ability to buy Bitcoin at just about every major supermarket in the country. That's a possibility now with our what we call our voucher program. So that's what we think we've solved, people now being able to get Bitcoin SV. We've got our SendB wallet, which is now about to launch its version 2, which is a vast improvement. It'll be a lot quicker and smoother and slicker. We have, so that's the purchasing Bitcoin, the holding Bitcoin, and now we're getting into the use of Bitcoin. How do people use it? We are very against this hodl mentality where you buy Bitcoin and you sit back and you relax and you get rich. We're very against that, and also from a values point of view, I think that if you want to get rich, you've got to work hard.
Right.
So you don't just get rich by being lucky by investing.
But the leader of Bitcoin, SV himself, he got rich by holding a lot of Bitcoin.
Yes, he did. But remember, he built Bitcoin. He invented Bitcoin, and he's continuing to invent Bitcoin. That's if you believe Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto, and I certainly do believe that.
Right.
So he's constantly working. He's building, and it's not that he was just a one-hit wonder, came up with an idea, and suddenly now is loaded. So we're very against this hodl mentality. We want people to use their Bitcoin, and that's when the network will become more valuable, and that's when your Bitcoin will become more valuable, when it's useful. So we've now got our remittance product, which is in pilot phase testing, and we've opened up the South Africa-Nigeria corridor. And as soon as that works well and the software is stabilized and works nice and smooth, then we're going to open up other countries around the continent. And we really think we're going to be very disruptive and bring a lot of value to people, because we can really make it a lot more convenient and efficient and cost effective. And then, so once we've got that, we've got a nice use case for your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we would love for you to be able to go and spend your Bitcoin. Go buy your groceries or pay your bills or buy airtime, data, whatever. So we've got this lot of stuff on the go, these major products that form the pillars of this company. That's why we think of ourselves as an ecosystem company. Very ambitious with a small team trying to build all these products. We are very enthusiastic and excited about it. We think we're going to manage to do this. Obviously, we've got some good people here, and Angus Brown, who I think you've met.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of experience in this space. Especially coming from a banking world and having founded eBucks. And that's still going to this day. 20 years later.
Sure.
That was 2000, by the way, 20 years ago.
Right.
So.
Or 2020 years ago.
Yeah, it's almost 20 years ago. Man.
Yeah.
So, we are very excited about it and the potential, and we think that South Africa is going to become, and other countries, of course, as we engage more partners across Malawi and so on, we think that we can bring Bitcoin to Africa, and that's been my mantra for the last, I got involved with Bitcoin in late 2010, 2011. Since that day, I want to bring Bitcoin to Africa, and this is my continent, and this is where I want to change the world, and this is where Bitcoin can work best. So now, we're doing it. We're managing to break that ground. So it's very exciting.
So if you had, we can talk about the politics of what's happening in regards to crypto and all the other things. But how would you, if someone was listening to this interview 100 years from now, how would you explain or give them a sense of what it feels like to be in 2019 today?
Yeah, that's very interesting. If you're in this space, if you are somebody who is a crypto enthusiast and you follow people on crypto on Twitter, and you're interested and you do your research and you find out, it's extremely noisy and confusing, and it all comes down to the personalities, because everybody's punting some blockchain technology. They all have great hopes, that this is going to be the technology that changes the world, and this is the way it's going to be done. But there's nothing really that has been something that you can look at and say, oh yes, look there, it's working. Look at that blockchain. It really is. Look at the amazing products. Look how many people are using it. None of that's happening really, except actually on Bitcoin SV. But right now, that means that it's only opinions. And obviously when there's opinions and there's no substance to those opinions. In other words, when they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating, there's lots of pudding, but nobody's eating it, so we can't really tell whose pudding is the best. And that means we're going to assume, based on our limited understanding of the technology, if we're not technical, most of it is down to the personality types.
Yes.
Every single blockchain project has a group of personalities or a single personality that dominates, and people make their decisions about a crypto project based on the personalities involved.
Right.
Who are they involved with? Like if you look at Ripple, it's all about enterprise and going with government and so on. And a lot of people who are very anti that, the BTC community, are very anti-government and anti-business.
Yes. Because
they don't want their Bitcoin version to be dominated by commercial entities that have to be regulated and so on. They've taken this whole idea that Bitcoin as a money system is going to solve the fiat problem, where governments, central banks can just create money. But they've taken it to the next level, where they say it's not just the money we can't trust and the money issuers. We can't trust the government either. Yeah. And we can't trust the institutions. So, those personalities are very anti that. They're the cypherpunks. The cypherpunk is not a cyberpunk. A cypherpunk, those people really want to have technology and systems that are private and government can't interfere with. And they've now taken this money system as something like that, where they want to create a system that government can't interfere with. And
but is there some merit to it?
Well, there's certainly merit in stopping ad hoc intervention. If there's a system and it has rules, you don't want those rules to change. So, of course, there is merit in creating a system that is solid and fixed and stable, and that nobody can then go and fiddle with, in the background. Like we look at the central bankers and we say, well, those guys can fiddle with the supply of money. Well, we don't want that. So, yes, there is merit in that, but there's no merit in saying we don't want commercial entities to come in and create products for their customers. We don't want government to regulate it.
But to their argument, I think what they're trying to say is that sometimes in most cases, when big institutions come in, they work with government, and domains or ecosystem become very close and very explicit. Exclusive, sorry,
Yes.
to certain groups, which merely just the institutions themselves, and then they
Yes.
profit from it.
Yes.
So the whole thing about Bitcoin is that it still allows everyone to participate and do whatever they have to do. So I think there's that feeling of that the more government intervene and the bigger institutions, it kind of now start to remove
Yes. Yes, the innovation and so on. Yes, I totally agree with that. But when we look at Bitcoin, let's just say, a lot of people confuse how the Bitcoin technology evolves and also just the rules around that technology. Now, what do I mean by that? I hear this argument all the time that BTC they say that the white paper isn't relevant anymore. The Bitcoin white paper that Satoshi Nakamoto, he wrote it 10 years ago, and things have changed. We've come up with new ideas. So why do we want to have a technology that stays fixed in the past? Okay, so they're saying it's like a Model T car. You remember the old Ford that happened, was it 100 years ago? They said, if you keep the technology the same, then you're never going to have innovation. But they've missed a very important thing. That when we looked at the Bitcoin white paper, what was the Bitcoin white paper meant to be? It was meant to create a set of rules that we follow. Now, how does that relate to cars? Well, think about the Bitcoin white paper as the rules of the road. We drive on the left-hand side. We have to stop at the red lights. We've got to yield at the circles. We have to park in the parking bays. We can't go over the speed limit. Those are the rules of the road. Okay. The cars now that we can build any car we like. We can build the most amazing car in the world. But if that car breaks any of those rules, it's not allowed on the roads. So that's what the white paper was. It was a set of rules. And you can now create technology, mining technology, wallet technology, node technology, that follows the rules of the Bitcoin white paper, but can innovate and so on. Can grow and become amazing. And that's what a lot of people have skipped. They think that guys like us who follow the Bitcoin white paper, we say the white paper is the rule and we must stay set in stone. They think, well, now you're saying that you don't want to innovate. But we do want to innovate, but the rules must stay stable. And that's what I was saying to you earlier. You don't want intervention. You don't want the central banker to come in and say, all right, guys, we're going to print another R1 trillion or $1 trillion, because now they've broken the rules of the system. We want to create a system of rules. Here are the rules. Now go and innovate on top of it. So this is now the fundamental thing that separates the BTC community from the BSV community, the Bitcoin core and the Bitcoin SV. And I don't think that when it comes to putting across the white paper saying, look, it follows the rules. That means rules of the law, the regulatory rules. That's fine. And another thing about BTC is that they want to try and create a system that is government resistant because they don't want that intervention, because they always use this word uncensorable. Have you ever heard that word?
Censorship free.
Censorship free. So they're saying we have to create a system that is resistant to government, where they cannot interfere, because we don't want them shutting things down. But do you know how you make something government resistant and uncensorable? You make it follow the rules. You make it follow the laws. If your system follows the law, no one's going to shut you down. Government can't shut you down if you are acting within the regulations and the legal environment.
Framework,
And the amazing thing about what Satoshi Nakamoto created is he created a system that can be legal. Remember, it has signatures, digital signatures. It's transparent. The ledger's transparent. You can view transactions if you know the identity of the owners of those addresses. So Satoshi Nakamoto actually created a legal system, which means government won't want to shut it down. BTC are trying to create an illegal system. In other words, or let's say illegal. They want it where there are no laws that can stop it. And that's why they were quite happy to do something like segregated witness, which is to remove the signature out of the transaction, which means now it's not a legal document. It's not admissible in a court of law. It doesn't conform to any of the legal structures that we have today. So of course government's going to want to get involved there. So can you see now, there's so many of these subtle issues that when you just see it from the surface and you listen to specifically certain groups, blockchain groups, they've got their ideology. But a lot of the time that ideology is naive. They don't fully understand what's going on here. And those cypherpunks that are in charge of BTC and the narrative, they have their ideology of creating a government-resistant world. and they're not considering just how the world works.
So let's talk about Craig Wright a little bit.
Yeah,
So you believe that he is Satoshi himself?
I do.
Okay, I'm not convinced.
Mm.
So what do you think about, for someone who created Bitcoin and wrote the Bitcoin white paper as he claimed, why does he have to prove his Satoshiness by going to a legal court?
Well, he never wanted to prove himself as Satoshi. He always wanted Satoshi just to be hidden away. You know, he didn't want there to be a leader of this community. You know, he saw that as soon as there's a leader, you know, then people follow them, and you know, it becomes about the personality. And we've seen that in every blockchain project. You know,
Yes.
Bitcoin Cash has Roger Ver, Litecoin has Charlie Lee. You know, Bitcoin BTC has all those guys at the core group. You know, Samson Moe and Jameson Lopp, and you know, all those guys that are these big personalities now. So when Craig Wright, as I believe, created Bitcoin, he wanted to just create the framework for this technology, create the rules for this technology, and say, look, there it is now, innovate and build upon it, and so on. And that's why he didn't patent it at the time, because, you know, as soon as you patent something, well, now nobody can use it, and you know, no one can go and innovate on top of it unless they pay licenses. So Craig Wright was quite determined to let this just become a technology that evolves in the community, or at least the community takes on, and there's no sort of personal people that are now kind of the government of Bitcoin. And so, but unfortunately, you know, he got a lot of people did actually know at the time that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, and that's why he got exposed. You know, and suddenly now there were reporters coming along to him and saying, "All right, are you Satoshi Nakamoto?" And at that stage, it was like, okay, well, he's getting all this trouble. Let him just do it. But then, of course, when it came to now signing the whole transaction and moving the coins, you know, that to me is there's a number of things around that. First of all, when it comes to the holding the keys, and this is what everybody says, it would be so easy for Craig Wright to prove that he's Satoshi by just signing a transaction with these keys, or moving one tiny little Satoshi, you know, to a different address. But remember, possession isn't ownership. In the legal world, if I see a Lamborghini downstairs, I'm not going to say, all right, everybody in this room, whoever is holding the keys is the owner of that Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You might have taken those keys from somebody else. So possession means nothing. In the real world, holding the keys to the car does not mean you own the car. So it's pointless. But as well as that, it's kind of like saying, look, I want to know how much Bitcoin you have. Can you please now open up your wallet and just show me your balance there? You know, that's your own private information, right? You know, it's like me, my bank balance. Do you want to go and see my bank balance? So Craig has a lot of reasons to say, no, I'm not going to just like do this because everybody wants me to do this. Like, I've got my reasons. It's not going to prove anything. It's going to be, it's going to suddenly show everybody like what I own, and this is my own private information. And so that's why he's been reluctant to do that. But yet,
if possession is not ownership, I agree there.
Yeah.
But the closest thing to proving this is really, I mean, for someone who wrote the white paper, you know, he would understand that the only language he could use to convince, especially the crypto community, I mean, you can convince the courts by any other documents that he have, any other evidence that he has. But to convince the Bitcoin community itself, which is what he's mostly fighting with,
no, he's not.
He
He doesn't care about proving it to the Bitcoin community. He doesn't care about that at all. That's not something that keeps him up at night. I'm like, nobody believes me that I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. He doesn't have that concern or that worry.
Right.
You know, right now people are calling him fraud and so on, and bringing his name into repute. You know, McCormack and so on. And you know, he's like, well, it's in my rights. If you called me a fraud, Craig, I would say, look, either you apologize or whatever, or I'm going to sue you for defamation.
Yeah.
So Craig Wright has every right to do that. If I mean, that's calling his reputation into repute. Remember, he's a businessman, and he wants to have business relationships. And if suddenly the world is saying he's a fraud, you know, he's going to want to shut that down. And Peter McCormack has asked for it. You know, he kept on saying, sue me, sue me, sue me.
But they went to court, and then I think Peter won the court case.
No, there was no winning court case. It wasn't. There was a magistrate. All that happened was that you know, the magistrate at the time made his sort of you know, gave his opinion, but it's got nothing to do with what a court has decided.
Okay.
They haven't decided whether or not Craig is lying. In fact, they decided that he was Satoshi Nakamoto because he now had to pay money to Ira Kleiman, who's suing Craig Wright because of Dave Kleiman's bitcoins that Ira the brother, if you know about the story.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what has the court done? It's actually said, all right, Craig Wright, you're going to have to pay that up.
Since yeah.
Because you're the guy. You've got the money. You've got the coins. So isn't that interesting? So look, the whole crypto community are very keen to know if this guy is lying or not. For in their minds, they think that it's so simple to move coins. But Craig Wright is not going to play that game. He doesn't care if everybody is going to be calling him fraud. He's carrying on building. He is the guy who has the Bitcoin, and it's meaningless what the crypto community say about him.
You're a computer scientist yourself. So one of the arguments that comes out is that from a lot of developers, they say that they don't think that Craig Wright is a competent enough developer to create something like Bitcoin. What is your take on that?
Well, I disagree. I mean,
Okay.
If you just look at his credentials and you see his history and you see how much work he's done, not just in programming. I mean, he lectured on it. Of course, he's not a wizard programmer, but he's a polymath. I mean, he has legal expertise. He's got degrees in law. He's done a lot of work, forensic auditing work for companies over the last 30 years. If you just look, if you just get past the sort of I can't bear this person, and you actually go and look into his history, you'll see that he's so experienced in so many of the kinds of ideas that need a Bitcoin type technology to be born. He understands money, and he understands the legal aspect of money. He understands the regulatory aspect of money. He understands the networking that is involved in something like this. Of course, maybe coding up the client, the Bitcoin client, he wasn't a genius at it, and the white paper certainly was edited by probably Dave and other people just to make it a little bit more formal and stuff. But I think, and this is what has convinced me getting to know him, is that he is by far the most credible person in terms of Satoshi Nakamoto I have ever seen. Not only because of his history and his credentials and everything that he's done before, but the fact that he's continuing at his company Enchain to deliver white papers and actually getting patents out of those white papers that are being granted around all this technology. So it's actually, when you dig into his personality, when you see this person, when you meet him and you go and look at the work that he's doing, I can tell you it's more bizarre to believe that he's not Satoshi Nakamoto than that he is. You think, okay, he's done all those things. He's that kind of person. He's wealthy. He's done all these, written all these these papers. He's got all these patents, but he's not Satoshi Nakamoto. Well, then he's actually better than Satoshi Nakamoto if he's not actually Satoshi Nakamoto.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So another thing is, what do you think of Nick Szabo?
Well, I mean, he's an interesting person. I don't think he's this as amazing as everyone makes him out to be. I don't think that he didn't invent smart contracts, and his money system, was it e-gold or BitGold or something like that? It was flawed and it didn't work. He tried to make things anonymous. So, of course, he's this kind of character that people have kind of latched onto since Satoshi disappeared as, okay, the next best thing. It's kind of like guys like Adam Back. It's like, well, Adam Back was mentioned in the white paper, so man, this guy's got to be as good as Satoshi. They all have backgrounds in technology, but none of it has been, there's not much accomplishment there. I mean, what have they done that's succeeded or been great? So I mean, of course, I'm not going to say anything about their characters, but I don't think we should elevate them as much as I think the BTC community want to, because again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Well, what have they done? So
and from what you know of Craig, does he come across as a guy who would create something like Bitcoin and without patenting it?
Yes.
Because historically he has like a patenting.
Yes.
He's like a patent magnet. He likes to patent stuff.
He does, but a lot of those patents are defensive patents. I mean, he wants his vision of Bitcoin, and that's why Bitcoin SV is called SV, because it's Satoshi's vision. He wants the Satoshi vision of Bitcoin. So that's another thing about Craig Wright. If anybody has been consistent about what Satoshi Nakamoto created, if you go look at everything that Craig Wright has written and said, and you compare it to everything Satoshi Nakamoto has written and said, there's no contradiction. So Satoshi's vision was all about creating this system that everybody could use, that was legal and so on. And that's what he wants. He wants to create a system like that. So what is he doing with most of his patents is he is now locking them to Bitcoin SV. So if you want to come up with Lightning, for example. By the way, Craig Wright's patented Lightning. You can only do it on Bitcoin SV because he wants to protect the Satoshi vision of Bitcoin. He doesn't want the Bitcoin Core vision of Bitcoin or the Bitcoin Cash vision of Bitcoin. He wants the Bitcoin that Satoshi Nakamoto created. That's why SV is called SV. But he's a businessman, and of course he's going to create patents that he can now monetize. Because as a business, he wants to build it.
So did you say he patented Lightning Network?
Yes.
So
it's patented by Craig Wright.
Okay.
How about that?
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy? Not that it's a worthless patent because Lightning won't work for a whole lot of reasons.
So why did he create it?
He didn't create Lightning, but the ideas around Lightning, the payment channel ideas and so on, those ideas he's actually managed to patent. So the grant, and it's been granted.
Oh, okay. So you need a license.
If you want to use Lightning and you don't want to exactly, you're going to have to probably do some kind of licensing agreement with N-Chain.
Okay.
So he's the kind of person who knows that you can't patent Bitcoin, because if you patent Bitcoin, nobody's going to use it. Nobody's going to build upon it. But if you can patent all the clever ideas around it, as a normal business would, I mean, think about the internet. No one's patented the internet protocol, but they've certainly patented all these ideas around the internet, as smart businessmen should.
Yeah.
He's now let the technology out there. He's creating defensive patents, so people are forced to use Bitcoin SV, the Satoshi Vision version, and patents that he can then monetize, as IP that can be, licensed or sold or something like that.
Awesome. What else would you like to say to the entire crypto community, lastly?
Yes, so let's just go back. I mean, let's carry on with this Craig Wright thing, because he is the stumbling block for most people. Especially if you were in Bitcoin before Craig Wright came on the scene. We all had our ideas around what Bitcoin was. We had this idea that it was going to be the system that could be outside of the law and outside of government. It was this independent thing that people like us could freely use, and it was going to change the world. And then suddenly Craig Wright came onto the scene, and he was like, no, it's about law, and it's about regulations, and it's about patents, and it's about business, and it's about commercialization. That was a big, I mean, for everybody, that was like a big thing for us, because now we were all sort of drinking this Bitcoin Kool-Aid, which was this, everything that Craig Wright is not, believing that that's what it was all about. And he's now come onto the scene and saying, no, guys, you're wrong. And that's why, and he doesn't just say you're wrong, he'll call you an idiot, or he'll swear, and he'll be coarse and Australian, and for a lot of people, that's just, they can't get that, they can't buy into it. But, that's going to be, and you asked me if I was a Christian, actually, I'm glad you asked me that, because it's the same kind of thing here. If you are a religious person, you've got your reasons for believing something, and as a Christian, I have reasons for believing it. I don't just believe it because I was told to believe it. There are a number of things that I had to pull together. Like things that history, science, philosophy, that brought me to this amount of information that I had to say, well, I've got all this evidence, as a judge would have in a court. If he wants to judge somebody's being a murderer, he'll say, where were you? Is your DNA at the scene? There was a witness there? Did he see you? It's not just one of those things that will acquit you, or the judge will say you're now going to go to jail. He will take all this evidence and he will put it together, and he'll say, right, given all this evidence, which way does this now lead me? Is it more likely, given this evidence, that is true or this is true? Yes. Or am I still on the fence? And judges have to make that decision. Sometimes they sit on the fence. They say, I can't decide. Right. Sometimes the judge will say, this is sufficient for me to now make a judgment. Yes. You're guilty or you're not guilty. Craig, and as a Christian, going back to that, that's what was saying for me. I had to come up with all this evidence and information, and I have to say, all right, what do I decide? Am I on the fence? Do I decide, yes, God exists, or do I just decide God does not exist? And I decided, well, I've got a lot of information here, a lot of evidence. It persuades me. Craig Wright is exactly the same kind of thing. You have to look at all the things I've been telling you about and more. You have to look at his history, the people that he was involved with, the work that he's done in the past, the work that he continues to do today, the things that he says. And you have to say, all right, given all that information, even if I don't like this guy, what must I do? Do I decide to sit on the fence? Do I decide that I'm going to throw it away and say, no, I refuse to acknowledge it, it's all bull, or it might be true, but it still doesn't persuade me, or it persuades me? And when you start not being so close-minded, and just every time you see his face, you just get this angry look, and just you want to tweet and say what an idiot this guy is. If you just go and spend a little bit of time, and you go and look at everything I've said, I can tell you, Greg, and everybody who is listening to this, they will also start saying, it's kind of like when you're coming over the fence and you're going onto the other side, and you realize, okay, it's persuading me. I'm feeling uncomfortable about it, but my mind and my brain is telling me, look, this just makes sense. I'm not loving it, but I have to go where the evidence leads. And eventually you'll pop over that fence and you'll be like, okay, I've come to terms with this.
For a lot of guys in this, for a lot of people in this space that are more technical, there's a lot of technical people that, to them, evidence is much more like, the code that you can show, kind of like a very binary kind of evidence.
Everybody's got their different levels.
Yes. Right. So, there's a certain level that I think Craig Wright's conversation doesn't cross. I feel that's how I feel. It's like he provide certain type of evidence, but then for people who are looking for technical evidence, that has never been provided.
Yes, and it's the same with religion. And some people need more evidence. Some people need God to actually speak His face out there.
I'm one of those.
Yes, you want God to write His name on the heavens. Okay. For other people, they don't need nothing. They just need to wake up and just have this feeling in their heart, and they
feel it.
So everybody is on the spectrum, and for some people it's going to be very difficult. I mean, you can imagine those BTC guys. For them it's going to take literally, and they've even said it. If Craig Wright moves those coins tomorrow, they're going to believe that he stole the keys.
Right.
So nothing will convince them. But if you are sort of, okay, I'm like this, I don't know, maybe not, then why not just put a little bit more effort into it and go and look into this and see, look past the things that are like bug you about him, the way he acts and the way his demeanor and so on. And if you just kind of look behind and you they say in religion you've got to open your heart. If you just open your heart a little bit and you say, all right, like I don't like this guy, but I'm going to be willing to just put a little bit more effort into digging into it. Seeing what's going on. I can assure you that you are going to be led down that path. You might not like it, that journey, but eventually you're going to come to a point where you'll say, well,
the evidence is there.
I mean, they say like that you have to have more faith. Like for me, I always say this to my friends and people who ask me if I'm religious. I always say I have to have more faith to believe that God doesn't exist than that He does, given the things that the evidence and things that I've picked up.
Right.
I have to have more faith to believe Craig Wright is not Satoshi Nakamoto than to believe that he is. If I believe that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, everything makes sense. Who he is, where he comes from, the work he's doing today, the fact that he's continuing to push Satoshi's vision in terms of Bitcoin, it all fits. If he's a liar and he's not Satoshi Nakamoto, well then he is the biggest psychopath that exists. Like somebody who is not just a liar but actually mad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What are you going to do? What would you do if it comes out that he is not?
Well, I'll be blown away by it, and I'll be like a little bit disappointed because it's nice to feel like Satoshi has been found, but it won't make me think any less of him. I still think he's a genius. Like I said, it's not just because I think he invented Bitcoin. It's because of the work he continues to do today. And you should see, if you look into N-Chain and see what they're doing, you're going to be amazed by the work that they're continuing to do in this Bitcoin space. So if he's not Satoshi, well then he's better than Satoshi in terms of his inventions and everything. And he's a person that you should consider seriously anyway, and do your best to read his papers and so on. If he's not Satoshi, he's still amazing. I think. I mean, he's still a character, sometimes difficult to swallow, but he's an amazing genius, whether he's Satoshi or not. If he's not Satoshi, well then my quest goes on, and I want to still be looking for this guy Satoshi because I still want to meet that guy one day.
Right.
But if Craig is Satoshi, well, I've met him. I'm like, and then my heart is satisfied, because the Satoshi question is closed. But Craig Wright, to me,
it's an endless quest for a lot of people,
Yes. Well, if you deny Craig Wright, it's an endless quest.
Yes.
I believe you'll never.
I think people also like to make it an endless quest.
Yes, they want the mystery.
Yeah.
The mystery is always more beautiful than the reality. It's like to put a coarse example, you know, a naked woman isn't as mysterious and beautiful as a clothed woman.
Oh
You
yeah,
know what
for
I mean?
sure, for sure.
Like the mystery is always, you know, something
Different,
that you want. And that's
yeah.
why people want the mystery of Satoshi. They want that like exciting thing, like who's this guy, you know?
Yeah, right.
And to suddenly say, no, it's just a normal human being. There he is, you know.
Mm.
Then it's like, the mystery's gone,
Yes.
and now I don't have that mystery anymore. So, anyway,
Awesome, man. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Again,
Thanks for chatting.
it's always a great time.
always thank
Cool.
you very much.